Hello everyone, my name is Rayve, and today I'm going to be reviewing the new Gryph0n album, Diamond. Gryph0n, the alias of Gabriel Brown, is a YouTuber who is most well known for his impressions of famous movie and TV show characters, as well as doing various singer impressions. And he does this rather well, as he is incredibly versatile with his voice, which has granted him to get various voice acting roles over the years, most notably singing numerous songs as a choir singer in Season 5 of My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic. And he has also lent his voice to several of the ASDF films by YouTube animator Tomska. He has also served in the Navy, and I have so much respect for people who served in the armed forces, so salute to you, Mr. Brown. He frequently collaborates with his brother Nathaniel, otherwise known as Baasik, making many appearances on his YouTube channel. And now the duo has come out with their latest collaborative release, Diamond, after releasing their debut album, Immortal, all the way back in the year 2014. However, I do have to confess that I was not super familiar with Gabe's material before this, so I wasn't completely sure what to expect going into this project. But however, taking a quick glance at his channel, I assumed that this would be a fairly straightforward pop record, and that's a pretty accurate description of the tracks found on Diamond. The tracks have an upbeat, synth-heavy instrumentation with an impressively high production value, especially considering that this record is self-released, and I would assume that they recorded, mixed, and mastered it all on their own as well. Gabe also delivers a very good vocal performance on Diamond, complementing the fun vibe that the tracks exude. I would describe most of the tracks on this record as standard modern pop, with the lyrics being mostly about believing yourself, romance, positivity, and all that stuff. And while it's certainly not offensive in any way, shape, or form, I also kind of wanted a little bit more out of these tracks. I guess this mainly has to do with the fact that I'm generally not the hugest consumer of pop music, as I like music that either has a more hotter edge or is just a little bit more experimental. You know, the good kind. However, I still could groove with the majority of the tracks on this album, and I enjoyed quite a few of them. For example, the track Wander, I quite enjoyed the atmospheric synth instrumentation found on it that's complemented rather well with Gabe's moody delivery on the track. In the Rough is another highlight for me, as it's cleverly conjoined onto the tail end of the previous title track, and is an instrumental that feels much more ambient and experimental than anything else found in the track listing, making it stand out more. And I really enjoyed how psychedelic and trippy it feels as you have this shimmering synth instrumental mixed in with these different sounds and voices floating around you. My only real complaint about the track is that it gets cut off a little too abruptly, kind of taking me out of the moment. Another track of note is Magic, that features this quirky piano instrumental and is just a fun track all around, as Gabe is emulating this Bruno Mars-like swagger vocally, and has these cool horn parts scattered about. However, there's also moments on Diamond that I'm not so thrilled about. For example, the chorus on Let Down sounds really rushed and spastic, much like a 5-year-old child after being allowed to finally have a sip of dad's coffee. There's also tracks like Last Chance and What You Need that end rather strangely, as the former cuts off prematurely, not giving you the proper catharsis of resolving the chorus to end the track, while the latter ends with this studio outtake between Gabe and his brother about whether or not Gabe's laugh sounds cool at the end of the track or not. And it also has this reverb effect on it, and that's some auto-tune, I think, as well. It just really feels really disjointed. The closing track to this record, Immortalized, is probably my least favorite off of Diamond, as it's this really stereotypical EDM dubstep song that sounds like it came straight from the year 2012 from someone's montage parody that they're really embarrassed about ever making and desperately trying to forget that it ever existed in the first place. Immortalized also isn't helped too much by the fact that it really doesn't go anywhere that interesting and focuses too much of its time on a field of ideas that's just really barren. Overall, I wouldn't describe Diamond as a bad record per se. It's a pretty average to decent pop record that most people who like Gabe and his content would probably eat up, and I can totally understand why. There are plenty of fun moments on this record that balance out or even overtake the kind of mediocre and not so stellar moments on this record, and it is certainly a lot better than a majority of other music made by YouTubers. I'm looking at you, Jake Paul. Stop it now. In terms of a rating, I would probably rate this album 6 out of 10.